Welcome to this month's dotFIT Supplement of the Month. I'm Kat Bearfield, VP of Nutrition Services for dotFIT and head dietitian. And we have also our founder and CEO, Neil Spruce, and some other dotFIT team members on the call, Eve, Berlinda. Thank you for being here, you guys. We're going to be talking about essential amino acids today. You've probably all heard of BCAAs. Of course, that's probably what your clients ask about. But of course, this is the next level, probably our top recovery product in all of our, pro and college channels and in the gyms. So Neil's going to bring to you a lot of practical information, how to translate some of the science so that your clients understand the benefit, as well as some marketing assets that you have access to. So we are recording. If you have a question, drop it in the chat. And then afterwards, we can all get back on screen, unmute, and just answer your questions one by one for as long as you would like to. You will get a recording afterwards and a follow-up email, so don't worry about that. Just buckle your seatbelts because it's going to be a good one, you guys. Get ready. AminoFormula.
All right, thanks, Kat. Yeah, and so for sure, this was definitely a special one because I have an emotional attachment to this. Because you have people say, I wrote the book on this or book on this. Well, I actually did write the book on amino acids in sports. I was lucky enough back in the early 2000s, might have been 2001, I think, when I got asked by CRC Press, which does, postgraduate sports nutrition chapters and in books and so forth. So I was asked to write it on amino acids in sports when I kind of stumbled across a formula like this that these scientists were working with astronauts and the aging population, and was able to take it and apply it into the world of athletes, the world of activity, the world of everyday people. And the rest is history. As Kat said, certainly our number one selling product worldwide, period. And of course, in all our pro and college sports that we work with, this is the number one supplement for all of them there. But the point is, there is a place where it fits into anybody, or it could be anybody, but there's a time when you may not need it, where it could be overkill. So one of the things I want you to kind of get from this whole thing. And again, so far we've done this. We did our intro to dotFIT, which is why you're all here today. You understand the importance of nutrition in everything that you do. You have the holistic approach. So that's why we do it. We went through baseline supplementation there. And then we did all proteins last time. So perfect timing on this, which takes you kind of beyond protein because it's extracted from protein, obviously. And that's what it's about. So we're going to kind of break in the categories of where this falls in as far as performance as well. All right, so this is what we're going to end with. So I always like to start with what we're going to end with. If you want to take your results far beyond diet and exercise alone, maximize daily recovery and exercise-induced results, get paid overtime for your workout, that's what we're talking about here. We leave no exercise-induced results left in the gym. And this will also help prolong your active lifestyle. And these are just the little one-liners that surround it. I'm not going to read them to you now because this is really the punchline at the end, along with other experts in the way they present the product to people that should use it. Okay, so let's go. So remember something here, and you're going to see this as we pick if we pick creatine down the road, we pick, one of the other products that we have, NO7 Rage, there's a category they fall into that all performance supplements should be separated into. And one is acute performance. In other words, if you take it immediately, something's going to happen. Your workout's going to be better, or your game day is going to be better. It's going to happen. And the only evidence-based ingredients that actually pull that off are creatine, caffeine, beta-alanine, carbohydrate when you load properly, nitric oxide production ingredients like we have in the NO7, sodium bicarbonate. We're not going to talk about those things here. But the bottom line is, these are the ones that improve immediately. You take it and your game day is better, whether it's in the gym or whether it's somewhere else. That's acute performance, we call it. The second category is long-term, or what we call, better recovery. Well, you're not going to feel that the next day. It's like taking a vitamin. You don't just take the vitamin and go, wow, okay, I feel better. I'm going to have a better workout. That's not going to happen, other than maybe a placebo. But over time, your recovery is 10 times better. So at the end of a year, you've healed much better, micro tears aren't there so much, and you end up getting more results over time, whether it be a few months to any time. And what falls into that category, obviously protein, because without protein, you can't recover, right? All right, creatine actually crosses over. It is the one ingredient that goes both ways, can immediately change your workout, and it also is involved in recovery. And then what we're going to talk about today are the essential amino acid formulas. That doesn't mean that they're all the essentials are in there, but there is an essential amino acid formula that can stimulate, like branched chain amino acids, the recovery process. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. So bottom line is this falls into category 2, long-term, better full recovery. Now, you'll recover better the first day. So the difference, you can feel this early because you won't be sore the next day generally from what you might have been sore from before, depending on where you are in your workouts. All right, so this is beyond protein. So that's your first takeaway. Muscle protein synthesis beyond just meeting your protein requirements. And I don't do anything without baseline. I don't like I won't talk to anybody. I don't work with anybody. Unless I know they are taking our complete multivitamin and getting 1 gram per pound of lean body mass daily, and taking a shot of protein before their workout and a shot of fast acting protein after. That's baseline. You don't get to talk to me. You don't get to play with me without that, because that changes. These are the things that are optional, as you know. But that changes everything, right? Because now I've got, no matter what your goal is, weight loss, weight gain, performance, at least I've got a baseline now. You have everything you need for complete recovery for long-term gains, including reducing sick days. In other words, don't stop you from getting sick. A virus enters your body. It's how you handle it once you are sick, reducing those days, and your injury potential. Because now you've got all the ingredients to be able to heal from the workout, rather than micro tears that build up over time. Next thing you know, you got an injury. And it makes all fitness goals just a little easier so you can stay active longer. That's what it's about. And it pays for itself in the fact that all you're doing is adding a multi and a protein, and that protein will cut $20 to $30 off your grocery bill, because you got to have 1 gram per pound, whether you like it or not. That's what you want if you want to remain active. You add this to it, and you're significantly going to save, on your grocery bill. All right. So beyond protein, here we go. So I put everything on this one slide for you, really. Next level in muscle building. And that, of course, really applies to the athlete, but it also applies to the sedentary person. So what we've actually done is, obviously, these aminos, these 8 aminos that are in here, are obviously the same aminos you find in a protein source, whether it be fish, chicken, as long as it's complete protein, they're in there. Protein powder, they're all in there. But what the scientists figured out back in the early 2000s, late 1990s, they go, okay, well, what is it about protein that actually turns on the machinery to build muscle? We know what it does to complete the process, because you need 20 amino acids to complete it. But which of those molecules in there actually turn on and trigger muscle protein synthesis? And that was the genius that they were looking for, because then they could reduce the calories, the sulfur intake, the nitrogen intake, and be able to get the same sort of muscle building going on there. So the bottom line, the goal is to improve whole body net protein synthesis. And that's not just muscle protein synthesis, whole body. Because obviously our skin, our hair, our nails, our liver, our kidneys are all replacing their tissues every day, and protein's needed for all of those. So there's thousands of different proteins in the body. So we want to improve whole body, not just muscle protein synthesis, right? Then we would have a better whole body protein balance, being able to, stave off all the things that come with aging. Right, by delivering the amino acids necessary for muscle protein synthesis in multiple formats. And then we can control body composition as well. We can actually turn the engine on with a lot less calories once we isolate what those molecules are. So we can control the body composition while we enhance our muscle and size performance gains that we're driving in the gym. And we call that timing of, and someone write this down. You see, I'm going to come back. Timing of skeletal muscle hyperaminoacidemia. Hyperaminoacidemia inside the muscle cell. And you'll see how that plays out in the picture real quick. So here's the goals. 4 different really targets here. What we're trying to do is we're supplying the muscle protein synthesis signaling molecules and controlling that hyperaminoacidemia to improve whole body protein balance, like we just saw. So that's all there. So here's one group. And by the way, this is the reason that I actually commercialized it after writing the chapter, was the athletic population. So, when I owned NESM, we were always working with athletes at that particular time. And so we had to prolong their playing careers. So what we discovered was simple. This formula, and there's only eight molecules here that are involved in triggering what we call mTOR, right? Muscle mammalian target rapamycin. There's 8 amino acids that are involved in triggering it, turning it on. But you need the rest to finish it up. But you can make those in the body. The 9th one is tryptophan, and we don't need that. We need that for life, but we don't need it to turn on the trigger. All right. And it would deliver an additive effect to the daily ingestion of intact protein. So when I talk about intact protein, that means it's a protein, whether it be your fish, your chicken, or a protein powder that have all 20 amino acids. That would optimize your exercise-induced muscle protein synthesis and recovery. And that would prolong your training gains, or what we call protein stacking. We're using multiple formats for this group. So they're getting it from their whole food, which takes forever to break it down. It's 4 hours, right? And then the amino acids are scattered everywhere. You don't know where they're going to end up. There's intact powder, like our Way Smooth, like our Best Plant Protein, like First String. That has all 20, but it's already pre-digested. So it's in your system in about 60 minutes or 40 minutes, and it can still be scattered because it's still got to get to the liver, and the liver decides what to do with it. But then there's the free form essential amino acids that we're talking about here. And they're in free form. They get a free pass to skeletal muscle. And I'll give it, it's all going to come together in a picture for you. But that's how that ended up in this group. So they would fully recover. And when we flipped all of our NBA players over to it, because they're the best test cases for soreness. I mean, they don't get a chance to get off the field like football players, right? They're on. I don't want to play defense, so call me out on defense. You can't do that. So when they get into their season, man, let me tell you something. We were using branch chain forever, the 3-branch chain, isoleucine and leucine and valine for recovery. And yeah, you got to take a lot of them, and it worked. But there was always a limiting factor because we knew nothing back in the day about the other 5 that were involved in triggering muscle protein synthesis. So there was always a limiting factor before the discovery. These scientists figured this out. So now it was a different world. They're recovering. I mean, the first day we tried it, they go, I felt like I could go again after the workout. I felt like I could go again the next day without being sore and all these things. So we knew we immediately hit a home run back in the early 2000s. This is all, by the way, all this is documented in the Practitioner Dietary Supplement Reference Guide. Okay, now here's where it gets funky for all of you. And this is probably your biggest opportunity around the world, the non-exercising adult population. And you probably already figured it out from the kind of backstory I just gave you. So if we can actually turn on your muscle and you didn't stimulate it with working out, we can stave off the inevitable. Of course, we're all going to lose muscle. I don't care who you are, whether you're an athlete working out every day of your life or a non-exercise, we'll all lose muscle starting in the 3rd decade of life. We all start going this way. We offset it with exercise and protein, right? We've always been able to do that. But there's people that don't exercise. So they begin into starting in the 3rd and 4th decade of life, they go the other way and you can't stop it. There's no way. But this formula can slow it down significantly. And that's where it started because of the dangers that happen to these people in their 50s and 60s. They fall, they break bones, they lose their balance, all these things. If we can slow muscle loss and related aspects, we can change the healthcare system. Because these are all the things that happen when you start losing muscle, of course, in the 3rd, 4th decade of life. You lose your balance, the bone starts to shrink, right? Strength, injury, all of these things. And we can do it in a really low calorie, because many of these people are overweight, so you don't want all the calories as well, and low nitrogen and sulfur load. So that's the second group. The third group is anyone just to improve the protein content, because this is from protein, and you can actually add a few grams of protein using this, and I'll give you that number when we get there. So it could be anybody to support their protein needs, and especially older people that lose their appetite. You'd be amazed, older people that lose appetite, amazed how this can make a big difference. And again, like I say, that's where it all started. And then when you're working with athletes that have to dramatically lose weight quick, like right now we're working in with like UFC challenges, crunch challenges, and they're all on AminoFormula because only for using is their before and after. They use that for the before and after rather than a protein powder with all the extra calories. They'll just simply use that because they've got to recover, and they're doing 10 times more work than they ever did because there's an 8 and 12-week challenge and they're trying to win the contest. And of course, fighters trying to make weight, we do the same thing with them. So there's your 4 categories. You can see it fits for anybody, but I do want you to know when it's a bit of an overkill. All right, so here's what it looks like. I promised you this, and this is, again, part of a much bigger lecture. But the bottom line is we want to stimulate muscle protein synthesis incrementally from intact protein alone by maintaining a balance of these particular amino acids proportionate to how much we need. So there's not one limiting factor. The problem with just branched chain, the other 5, if those other 5 aren't there, it will only activate muscle protein synthesis up to the limiting factor. When the other ones, they can't find that. So here's how it all looks. This is in all of your billions of muscle cells, you've got a little sensing device inside it. And it's the what we call mTOR, a mammalian target rapamycin complex 1. It senses everything that's going on inside your muscle cell. And when you work out, it starts tearing down muscle. And all these red things tell you not to build it, to tear it down. All these downstream proteins that are activated from a contraction. And there's other things now that tell you to fire it up. These 8 essential amino acids that we're talking about here, these are the only ones responsible for activation at the molecular level. So what happens is we overload the extracellular area with these aminos because they go straight there. The problem with a whole protein, well, food takes 4 hours, so we know we can't get it there timely, right? And an intact protein will get it there, but it still can't get there immediately. Everything has to go through, when it goes through your gut, in your gut, gets absorbed into your enterocytes, into the portal vein, which is the vein that goes straight to the liver. And the liver gets to decide what to do with the amino acids. Go to the skin, go to the hair, go to the nails. Oh, you know what? Hey, no, go to the muscle here, go there, here. Go to the liver, go to the kidney. It's always going to go to where it needs to go first, depending on the way it's all going. So they get scattered. When you deliver these here, they basically get a free pass to muscle. And there's sort of an evolutionary reason for that. They bypass splanchnic extraction, which is the liver, the portal vein we just talked about, and goes much more ends up in the muscle. So we end up with this large gradient of the amino acids that come in here to tell your body to turn on muscle while you're breaking it down. And that changes how much you break down. So now you're able to build muscle on top of muscle rather than breaking it down and just repairing it before your next workout. And that's how this thing works with regular protein, because the rest of the protein that's coming in from your food sources or your protein powder is going to pick up the spinal synthesis and put it all together. But this keeps the machinery turned on. So all we're looking for is that gradient, bypassing all the extraction and getting it straight to here to turn the light on. And you end up with all kinds of great things. And this is the demand proportionate to the demand. That's what these Greek scientists figured out. This is a 12-gram serving of exactly our formula here. This is what it needs, and this is what it takes to get in there. If you can get that straight to the muscle right before your workout or during your workout, almost like a Gatorade for endurance athletes with the electrolytes during the workout, you can keep this light on and you'll be recovering much, much quicker. So that's kind of how that all plays out inside the muscle. And guess what? So many studies have happened since then. Now, I guessed back in early 2000, there weren't any studies to kind of compare it along with a protein powder and regular food. And they just nailed it here. So, it was pretty obvious that it was going to work. And then, of course, we knew from empirical data from our athletes, we knew it was working. But the bottom line is, here's how it happens. Now, this was Park et al. Who just recently did this study. There's a faster increase and a higher peak in skeletal muscle amino acid concentration. So there's your hyperaminoacidemia. Here's the essential amino acid concentration inside the muscle immediately after ingestion, okay, of it. You're up here. This is food here, and this is a whey protein powder, right? How many of the amino acids end up making in the muscle? They actually just stay here and stay down here. This is a low dose of the essential amino acids, 6 grams. Here's a 12-gram that we recommend, and look how high you end up with this. All these molecules coming in to say, fire up the muscle, don't break it down. And that's what the goal is after a workout. Here's what it translated to after 12 weeks of study. It translates to this, the whole body protein kinetics. So here is what it actually took place. As you can see, using whey protein by itself, a powder, along with your normal diet, you can see there was an increase in net protein. Using 6 grams of the amino formula, along with your whey protein, it actually increased the amount of net protein balance. And then, of course, the 12 grams, so it was dose dependent. The 12 grams took it to the highest amount. And this is significant over time. These are the changes in whole body net protein. Now again, this is a whole body. So how much did the muscle change? About 20 to 50% of this was skeletal muscle increase in repairing and recovering. And of course, a decrease in breakdown was significant with the higher dose as well, which is really why you get the higher net protein balance. So here's the conclusion from the study. And we called this protein stacking starting back in 2003 when we first came out with the formula. There is an interactive effect between the free essential amino formula and whey protein, your intact powder, that makes the combination highly anabolic in a dose-dependent manner. 12 grams work better than 6 on top of your whey protein. That exceeds the anabolic response from whey protein alone by 3 and 6 times. Again, and that's gram per gram. So, we were just lucky that, again, when I say lucky, I wasn't luck. I mean, obviously you studied it all, that we knew this would happen. And of course, all these new studies, and here's a take home from all the recent studies now. Essential amino acids, amino formula, sources that produce a large rapid increase in the peripheral, right? Essential amino acid concentration around the muscle are recommended to improve muscle and whole protein synthesis. So that's why it works for anybody. Muscle protein formats, right? Multiple foods. That's gonna get you a line down here, right? Intact powders, that's gonna get you a little bit, but then it's added to the other one, the essential amino acids free. You're gonna have the potential throughout a lifetime, especially when energy intake is restricted. So people on low calorie diets, we can really maximize muscle protein synthesis throughout a lifetime. And that's what it's all about, whether you're aging, whether you're an athlete competing or whatever. So I just took this one study. They said they did a really good job showing you exactly what we were doing. And it's called protein stacking. So I put that in here. So the beneficiaries, all the things we saw on the first slide, there they are, athletes, just a low calorie protein source. So someone trying to make weight. Older athletes, as they become more resistant, the older we get, the more resistant to protein, because we're not supposed to be here. We are. So this can overcome that way better than regular protein, because these amino acids are going straight to the muscle. And now multiple training days or sessions. The Olympic athletes we work with, track and field athletes we work with, are pretty much on the fields all day. So you drink this like a Gatorade throughout your day to keep from breaking down all that muscle and being able to recover faster. And then any non-exerciser over 30 years old to stave off the loss of muscle. And again, the low calorie, low nitrogen, low sulfur, which is important to some people as they age because their kidneys can't handle regular proteins that well. This has this higher anabolic potential with less of the things that will bother an older person's kidney. And this is the dosing is on the label. We do it by weight. We don't have to go over it. It's just right there on the label. And the older you get, probably the more you need. So those numbers are actually on there as you get older. So here's what it looks like with no protein stacking. So you're using this to control body composition and working out. So there's your baseline, as you know, right? That's baseline. On your workout days, this is all you would use before and after your workout. You're using your protein, though, here just to make sure you get the 1 gram per day. And add that to your fish or your chicken or whatever other proteins you're eating. Add your dotFIT protein, not just to save money, but it also brings in a higher protein source, with less calories. So there's all kinds of great things that happen when you add this to your normal groceries. So you have that in there along with your other proteins just to make sure you get the 1 gram from food, right? Because that's all that is food. But here is your pre and post, so you can recover even more. So that's a very simple way, and that's a person that's working out hard. I can easily, now if we go to the next one here, this is protein stacking. So when we work with athletes, this is how we would use it. Obviously you got baseline, right? But you've got your protein powder to make sure you get your 1 gram per pound if you need to add it. Generally, these people get enough from their foods on that part, but they're using it for before and after the workout. So 30 to 40 minutes before the workout, they take their protein powder. Now you've got what you saw in that previous diagram. You've got the whey coming in, hyperaminoacidemia to a certain level. Now that's getting into the body about 40 minutes, it takes 30 or 40 minutes. It starts to get there through the portal blood and it's now getting to muscle, but not a lot of it's scattered. So you're not getting that concentrated dose like we were talking about. And then you repeat this dose 30 minutes after your post-workout ingestion of your amino formula, because this one here is 30 to 40 minutes before. Then you'll take your amino formula 5 to 10 minutes before you start working out. And you can drink it throughout the workout, generally finish it around midpoint. Now you're drinking it just like an endurance athlete would drink a Gatorade, right? To may have the electrolytes in there all the way through, because all the stuff that's sweating out of them, well, all the things that are telling you to break down muscle, you're trying to offset by drinking this throughout that. About the midpoint, immediately after, you take your second scoop, right after the workout. And then, of course, after that, you would take your 30 minutes later, you take your final dose of your protein. That's called protein stacking. You got your food format coming in 3 hours before your workout, and of course throughout the day, which you're getting a low line of amino acidemia, and then you're going to get your powder coming in as well, low line there, and then you're going to get the amino acidemia at that target when you want it, when your body's crying for aminos, and you'll get the maximum muscle protein synthesis from that. So on that note, this might be ideal for those of you that use meal replacement programs, which is we're very successful with. The Lean MR is generally the one that people will use. You wouldn't use Lean MR ever for a pre-post shake because of all the fiber. The goal with Lean MR is to hold it in your stomach so you feel satiated after. The goal of a pre-post shake, you want out of the stomach into the muscles. So you wouldn't use that for that. So you would use the amino formula for that. So you use this for your meal replacements to get your 1 gram per pound, and then you use this for your pre-post. This is a great lifetime forever maintenance and weight loss program. And then an old guy like me, because I am very resistant to protein, as you can tell, I'm an incredible shrinking man, but how I would use it. And Kat recommends this to all of her clients and people that she works with, and dietitians like her, for trying to maintain just a healthy weight. So obviously I get up, for those of you, most of you know me, that I get up at 4 o'clock every morning, have my coffee, of course, walk down to the gym, which is fortunate on my property, but a nice little walk down there. And I always start out with 1.5 scoops amino formula pre and drink it during, as we just talked about. And now that's equal. Here's where your little one of your take homes. It would take 40 grams of protein to get that count of those 8 essential amino acids, right? And then of course you got all the other stuff that's going to be in the protein there as well. So you can actually count it as 25 grams of protein. I don't want you to count it as 40, 25 grams of protein. If you're taking 1 scoop of amino formula or 2 scoops, all I'm allowing you to do is count that as 25 grams to your total protein intake. So someone write that down. All right, now, then at 8 o'clock, this is where I do a little protein stacking. I still use first string, even though I'm not an athlete anymore. I pretend I am. So I get my 2 scoops of that right there. And then my first full food meal will be here at 800 calories, 40 grams of protein. So I'm getting my gram per pound between this, and then the foods. And that's when I take all my regular health supplements. Always take your health supplements after a meal, immediately after. 3 o'clock, I'll have if I don't have any leftover of lunch that I had here, which I make every day and bring it myself, even though that doesn't matter. If I have nothing left over, then I'll take a scoop just to keep that light on as much as I can and keep from shrinking. As my wife says, I'm the incredible shrinking man. And then at dinner, I have most of my calories. And I just put this in here. Those are facts. I eat most of my calories at dinner. I get about 50 grams there. So I've got, my gram per pound of lean body mass. And through calories, what really drives it up is my scotch. And I put up here, sometimes includes scotch, but it actually always includes scotch. And then I have my remaining doses of my health supplements here, always after a meal. So I'm just giving you an idea how an older person, that puts it all together kind of can use it. So if you have parents, grandparents, that's a great way for them to kind of put it all together. And again, we have all these laid out for you in the places. So here's some expert scripts and marketing assets for the amino formula. We open up, and remember, as I always like to say, if you're trying to change your body composition and not seeing a change every week, you're doing something wrong. And that has to do with when you leave here. The other 23 hours, I'm not worried about what you're doing here. It's when you leave here. So let's fix that. So I put some expert scripts. This is what we started with, remember? There, so supply the direct muscle building signals and building blocks in extreme low calories. Build and or maintain muscle better and longer beyond protein. That's the big takeaway here, beyond protein. Amino acid blend that takes muscle support, energy levels, and daily recovery to the next level, giving you the ability to control your body composition because you're getting anabolism with very low calories while enhancing recovery, muscle, and performance gains from your workout. Premier plateau buster. Maximum anabolic effect with the lowest calories. So that's kind of that one thing. Print this out if you're promoting this 1 month. It's a great printout. Make sure your trainers are all aware of that. Put it on the counter as the people are testing it. As you do sample tables, lay this out there so they can all have. We have to memorize this. It's right there. Those are just the flavors and so forth. All right, so here's some scripts. I always like this from Brian. Amino formula is like Gatorade for muscles without the junk in it. It's the best way to get complete protein. Bottom line is it wakes up your body and says, let's get this engine roaring and start producing some horsepower. So you see that really from the picture. It hydrates you down to the cellular level. Added recovery support from the essential amino acids to decrease muscle soreness, big one. Kat always likes this. And again, her son actually made it to the NBA, so she gets to work with a lot of these people, and they'll always tell you how it reduces the soreness. Ensure that you can maintain high quality workouts as long as you desire. Ultimate blend to decrease soreness, speed up muscle recovery. So these are all one-liners that trainers will gravitate to make it easy for them. And then I know that you guys can tell this is Eve. I can't imagine working out without amino formula. And I know that you will agree once you start drinking this as well. It's your ultimate recovery drink. And making sure you recover means it's easier to stay consistent with our killer workouts, and that means faster results. So always a little life stories with all of it there. And this is kind of the same thing here. Let's start making muscle right now. So some one-liners from everybody. And then the notes, I think you guys have already had this. One thing that this is probably important though. There's a million knockoffs. This is why we've changed the name a bunch of times. We've had to do that, crazy. We're finally down to the last name, Amino Formula. No one can knock that off because it's generic. You guys already know what the product is anyway, so the product's the same. But here's one here. People, I've been looking at your amino formula and I'm wondering why the mixture does not contain tryptophan, since it would be the 9th essential amino acids. Great question when someone's really thinking there. Well, guess what? I think I explained that early on. The 8 amino acids, right? 8 of the 9 in the amino formula are actual molecules necessary to activate. We don't want tryptophan. The rest of the 20 amino acids are needed to complete the synthesis after activation, which is easily acquired from your foods, protein shakes, and the de novo or the making of them in your body from other compounds. So that's the first part of the answer, but more information is this. It's a good thing tryptophan isn't needed, because tryptophan in a free form would end up getting through the blood-brain barrier and start to make you go to sleep. Now, in food, it doesn't do that because it's fighting for transportation through all different transports. It has to line up behind other ones. So it gets behind in the blood-brain barrier. It gets behind a bunch of different amino acids, including branched chain amino acids. So bottom line is, it's a good thing. In free form, it would get to your brain and start to put you to sleep. Now, what knockoff products have done to avoid having to answer this question, they'll actually put some tryptophan in it, but a small enough amount where it wouldn't make a difference. But they put it so they don't have to answer the question. But you guys know I'm psycho about science. I would never do that just to make life easier. These are the facts. All right, there's another one here. There's no protein listed on amino formula. Can I count as a protein? Well, you got that answer there. There's purposely not a complete protein for all the reasons we looked at, right? These are the triggers, all we want. You'll get the rest of the stuff from your other ones. That's why you can't just call this, if you took like 3 scoops, you can't call it 25, 25, 25, because you do want the other protein sources in there to back it up to finish the process. So what I put in here is what we just saw on that other, and this is on the website, because it's a very common question. But you do still want your 1 gram per pound of lean body mass of protein. And although active strength athletes will maintain this of all their whole protein has other helpful properties. Remember that, including satiety. So there's the fullness that you get from it. There's other helpful properties that come from the protein. So this would never be a sole source or anything. So that's why I say 25 grams. You could probably count it as more if you wanted to, but I would just still always try to get the 1 gram per pound of lean body mass minus 25 if you're using this, and you're good to go. So there's a money saver for you as well. And then soy. All powders it'll say contain soy, but it does not contain any soy protein. So I noticed soy lecithin in your amino formula and protein powders say contain soy. There's no soy protein in anything, right? Any of our amino formulas or any of our protein powders. It's soy lecithin. And it's in any powder you buy, waffles, waffle mixes, pancake mixes, muffin mixes. It's in those in an infinitesimal amount. You can't even measure it because it's an emulsifier. It wouldn't work without it. And it's not from the protein, so there's no allergy potential from it. but you have to list that. That's just the law if it contains that, because some people do have a soy protein allergy, but not a soy, because this is from the fat, not the protein. So there's your answer on that one. And there's your promotional materials. As you know, you've got all this stuff available to you. Got everything. And when you're promoting it, make sure you promote it in social media. We got these great infographics to go with everything. And we just finished a brand new promotional video. So it's a 1.5 minute, I think Rick just finished it. So make sure when you're promoting it, get on your TV, on your club TV, that'll sort of play every hour. So you can get a good, nice little shot at that for your members. And that is it. Let's open her up. I'm going to stop the share so I can see all your great faces. So there you have it. Now, one thing I did want to say, when this is overkill, is when I say overkill, if you're working with a recreational athlete that's doing baseline, they're taking their protein before their workout and protein after, they don't need to add this. I think when they get older, it might make sense when they get into their 60s or 70s or something, they can just use it exclusively. You know, rather than their protein, just use their protein powder to get the 1 gram per pound, but you don't need to protein stack. Protein stacking, honestly, like I just showed you that complicated one, that's really for your hardcore athletes or people trying to get to the next level. You don't need both. I just want to make sure you guys get that. Now, in the irony there, people that don't work out absolutely need it. All right, so we're ready.
One question I have is, what's the difference between the recover and build and aminos? Obviously, there's more in the aminos, but like, what would be the difference in the results?
Yeah, now, you know what? That's a frequently asked question. People go, can I get a tableted amino formula? I go, as close as you're going to get is the branch chain. So here's the quick answer. So your CNN headline answer is this. The branch chain amino acids, as it relates to recovery, is a poor man's amino formula. Okay, because it only has the 3. So it's missed. But remember, as I mentioned earlier, branch chain is all we knew before, because leucine is the main trigger. If there's one amino acid you have to have a high concentration of if you're working out, it's leucine. That is the initial trigger. And then the other 7 behind it of those other essentials, so not the tryptophan, the other essentials, once leucine triggers it, they come in behind and flip all the other downstream proteins on. So if you're missing one of those, but you've got a ton of leucine in there, it's not going to do you any good. All right, you're only lighting up part of it. So it's the limiting factor. Now, here's where branch chain. Now, if you look at the new, I just upgraded the branch chain formula. We use it for endurance athletes. That's what we namely use it for, because leucine, isoleucine, and valine are the branch chain. They say they share the same transporter through the blood-brain barrier as tryptophan. So if I take an endurance athlete an hour before their event and have them dump in a large dose of branch chain, that's why you see that giant dose on there. That fills the transporters going in through the blood-brain barrier, and tryptophan can't get in. It delays fatigue significantly for that group. So that's what we use it for today. Or if you want a tableted recovery, it still works for recovery, not nearly as well as AminoFormula. So I'm glad you asked that. I need to put that in this preso, because that is a really common question we get.
Yep. Hey, Matt Peterson, you're raising your hand. Do you want to come off mute and ask your question?
Yeah, my question is, can you talk about like your aerobic workout versus your weight training workout, using it before and during?
Yeah, I don't care what kind of workout you're doing. If you're doing a hardcore aerobic workout, it's no different. You're just activating more type 1 fibers, doing damage to them. So you would be especially important for that. So it'd be the same thing. And you can just drink it during. You drink it right before you start and drink it during, like you would your water when you're doing, you know, like or any kind of aerobic activity. I wouldn't treat it any differently. That help, Matt?
Yes, that's great. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, this is any kind of workout.
What other questions do you guys have about amino acids?
Yeah, I got a question.
Yep.
So if I was doing protein stacking with one of my clients, so I was having them take their amino formula immediately before their workout and then immediately right after, or better yet, during and before and after their workout. then having them drink a protein supplement 30 minutes after, would it be necessary for me to also maybe look into them taking Muscle Defender as well? When
Well, yeah, you could, okay. And if you've ever seen any of our stacking, we have a level 3 recovery package that we use for ultra endurance athletes. It always includes glutamine the last 8 weeks. And the reason is, which is Muscle Defender, you know, we call it exercise induced immune suppression. And I've never met an endurance athlete in my life that doesn't get sick right after an event. You know, their immune systems have crashed, or right before the event even, because it's a crash from all that work. So Muscle Defender or glutamine is something we included all of those levels. You know, anybody that's working out that hard, I can't make an argument for it. I know Kat will, but I mean, I can't make an argument for it for recovery unless you are really stressed, low calories, and you're working hard, like bodybuilders getting ready for shows. They all mainline it. But there also is a dietitian's, and Kat can tell you that it's a dietitian's recommendation to everybody for gut health, right, Kat?
Yeah, particularly in a stress state, like you said.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
So I work, and by the way, on that note, listen, I always, and you know, we work with, you know, not just, they're celebrity people, so they have a ton of money, so they don't have any budget concerns. So I do actually lay it out by budget for people that you're working with. So if you can afford this, listen, I'll lay one out like I do for all your top CEOs in the world, because they have no budget concerns. But I will work with the most important things, and always baseline is the most important, and you build from there.
Okay.
Earl, you got a question for us?
Our questions just not about aminos.
How do you mentioned you came up with 25 grams to use as your total protein intake for that. How do you come up with that? Because there's, I mean, you know, calories, protein, it just doesn't work out for me. I'm trying to figure out how that works.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, because basically I was making shit up. Just so you know. Okay. So all right. So here's how it works. If you look at 40 grams of whey protein, 40 grams of a complete protein, right? It would take at least 40 to 50 grams in order to get 4 grams of leucine and all the amount that are in the amino formula, right? It would take that much protein. So there's your first part of the answer. All right. Now, what you can't call, and this is where it's going to get tricky for everybody. And yeah, took Earl to ask this question here. Okay. So this is where it gets tricky. There isn't a protein count on there. Right. And the calories don't work out either. But in Europe, I would have to post the calories for 12 grams of those amino acids. 1 gram of amino acids, whether it's a complete protein or not, yields 4 calories. But in the US, you're not allowed to call that a protein, and you're not allowed to call out the calories if it's not a complete protein. So it's bizarre. We're catching up with Europe, you know, they're all the way around. But the insignificant part of that here, why it's not that big a deal, not counting the calories that are in those 8 amino acids. In other words, that's the carbon skeleton. I don't want to get too scientific here for everybody, but that's the carbon skeleton of an amino acid molecule. It has a nitrogen radical, and then it's got a carbon skeleton just like a carbohydrate, which is why it yields 4 calories per gram. Once you cleave off the nitrogen, you've got that there. But most of that, when it comes from a protein, especially a free-form amino acids, never going to be a calorie you're probably going to burn. It's going to be deposited in lean body mass. But guess what? That still counts as a calorie because your lean body mass now has the 4 calories. Good calories, but that's the point. So that's why, you know, the bottom line is it's a very astute question that you're asking. But I think next year they're going to force everyone to put, even on branched chain amino acids, we're going to have to write the calories on those as well.
Got it.
But the bottom lines are going to end up good calories because they're probably going to be deposited in lean body mass. That's the good news. Thanks for asking that, Earl. But yeah, I make shit up on the 25 grams. I'm just kind of reduced it on the rest of it. You probably claim more than that, actually. What else we got?
I just want to bounce kind of off of what Earl just asked, is that since I'm working with clients and building meal plans and counting macros and doing all of that stuff, is this coming into play? Am I now including that protein that you're talking about into now their macro goal for the day? Or are we just saying, take your aminos, go to the gym, burn it off, it'll be stored?
Yeah, you know, that's a good question all the way around, you know. Yeah, we don't count it in the protein count when you would put it in there. You can though. That's my point. And the reason is because it's an FDA thing. But they don't allow us to call it a protein, right? But we know that it's at least 25 grams of protein if you're taking that much, because, you know, obviously what it's actually contributing. So but that's why we keep it down at that low number. You know, at 25, when you're taking 2 scoops, when that's probably 60 grams of protein to get those amino acids. So we're throwing it in there. I would count it towards their protein total. I would count it for sure. If you're building meal plans, count it toward their protein total. On the calories, as far as that goes, just use what's on the label. You wouldn't need to add that in as far as the calories. That's what I would do. What else we got there? This is your time, so we got.
Okay, Matt's raising your hand. Just
okay,
unmute.
Matt. Yeah.
So if someone does this perfect as they get older, when are we going to see a very noticeable drop off in lean muscle mass? And going back to your comments on yourself over the years, what could you be doing better to not shrink so much?
Yeah, I don't really know. Maybe if I just didn't drink as much as I do now. I mean, it's so funny as an athlete, as an athlete, I never drank. I mean, I retired when I was 40, you know, I made a living with my body for 15 years and, you know, and I was a freak, you know, I was a big giant guy. And that's why my wife says I'm half the man she married. But then, you know, when I get into business, you know, I get to that point where I got to de-stress. So every night when I come home, I got to have a drink. And I'm a little bit tongue in cheek, but I think if I ate perfect like I was when I was an athlete, I could probably not shrink. I wouldn't have shrank as much as I have so far. Plus, the other reason I have shrunk as much, and I haven't really shrunk. I'm still, you know, obviously a little bigger or healthier, certainly than the average guy my age. But the other part is the injuries, you know, that I've sustained throughout my athletic career. You know, I've had, 3 shoulder surgeries. I've had 6 knee surgeries. You know, and so these things slow you. They make it so you can't move as much or do as much resistance type training that I would before. But I'm very happy with that. One other thing, I'll be 70 this month or next month. And, you know, the thing about that is the bottom line is the leaner you are at that age, the longer you're going to live. And I got another 30 years I got to figure out. So being lean actually works out pretty nicely. So I'm pretty happy with the rest of that. But I probably, if I had continue to eat like an athlete, I would probably have staved off a little of the loss.
So the first part of the question, did you say about 40? You can get to there, and then that's where you're going to start to notice the change?
Well, that depends. If you've been working out, and I have a lecture on that one, Matt. It's called the age experience intersection, guys. All right. So what happens is the older you are and the more experienced you are, the less gains you're going to make. Experience as far as weight training, exercise, right? The younger you are. So in other words, if I took a 40-year-old person that had never worked out in their life and took a 20-year-old person that never worked out in their life and gave them the same workout, who's going to gain more muscle?
36.
Right, the 20-year-old, no question about that, right? Hormone levels are different, all of those things, no question. Now, if I took a 60-year-old person, if I took a 40-year-old person like where I was when I retired, I wasn't going to put on any more muscle, you know, at that point without taking some kind of massive drug program, right? So at that point, but if I took a 40-year-old person that never worked out, oh, they'll blow me away with the muscle they put on. Blow me away. I'll put 20 pounds on that person in the first 5 years. Trust me, I have solid muscle, right? Where all I'm doing is shrinking. It's called the age experience intersection. I do a little visual around that. So I can always send that to you, Matt. But that's it. So it really depends on where you are in your life. If you've never worked out and you're 80 years old, I can actually put muscle on you. But no one dies looking like Mr. Universe at age 95. At some point, you're going backwards. That your performance is going to wane at some point in your life, depending on when you started.
Yeah.
Good.
then I just want to add a little bit to that, Matt. So, as you know, if you've heard Neil say, 30 is when you start to lose muscle tissue, approximately, just depending on if you're working out or not. And then you see a marked decrease at 50, a marked one, right? Where you start to get anabolic resistant. And adding in essential amino acids on top of your protein can help overcome that resistance to protein and resistance training. So to Neil's point, as you get older, it's more important to get that muscle protein synthetic response, because it's almost like the body's like, well, I don't really need you to be here anymore. You're done procreating. So you don't need to keep your muscle tissue, right? That's sort of from the evolutionary standpoint. But I'm a big fan of this for, especially if you're sedentary over 40 and over 50, especially whether you're sedentary or working out.
Perfect. What else?
I just want to shout out to Northwest Fitness Company. We haven't published the results yet, but you guys are the top dogs for Q1 of 2022. If you're not getting congratulations. You guys did some phenomenal work. We're going to be putting those out to all of you guys. You'll see it in our newsletter here coming up in the middle of the month. But since you're here, obviously it speaks volumes. So those of you who are building a business or in the early stages, or you're looking to build your personal training companies, your departments, look to Northwest, reach out to them. They're doing some great work, breaking records. Obviously they have a culture. You can tell they're all front and center in the same room taking notes. This is something that we see across the gyms that do the best in regards to executing nutrition programming within their fitness programming. So does anybody want to say anything, like maybe a best practice you want to share with everybody else on the call?
Practice
Don't
what you
be
preach.
shy.
Just gotta do it.
Did you say you just got to do it?
That's right.
Practice what you preach.
Yeah, leading by example. And on that note, since we got a couple minutes here, first of all, there's a bunch of people on this call that I see, whether it be Frank, Matt, a lot of single operators and small groups. Matt, what he does with nutrition, I don't think anybody gets out of his place without it. He's got a small studio there, and he's just been nonstop. So from a scale standpoint, these guys all are like that. But on a big box where you've got a lot of different people coming in, you guys are absolutely kings. All the way around. No one does it quite like you. And it has, and Mike just said it perfectly. It really is about leading by example. That doesn't mean because you take creatine, your client's going to take creatine. They don't necessarily need it with their goals. It just means that we supplement. And here's something that you should all understand. We supplement because we know that we can't just accidentally get all the stuff we get from food, from our choices of foods, that's going to give us this incredible longer life of activity. That's just naive or completely arrogant. You even possibly think that. So we know that. So we lead by example, number one. But the other part is this. We did a great study when we were partners in 24-Hour Fitness, and we built that, that incredible machine back in the day. We had Bain study the population and our trainers when they would offer nutrition, and all they had to say to their client right off the bat, all they had to do to get 50% of them to do it was to take their supplements was this: tell them what you do. Tell them what you do. That doesn't mean if you're taking creatine, tell them taking creatine, unless the guy wants to gain muscle or the girl wants to gain muscle, you can say that, right? But everyone needs baseline. Everyone needs a multi. Everyone needs 1 gram per pound of protein. Everyone, if they're not eating fish, needs an omega. So we got that. And that's what you do. So all you do is mention it to them. And guess what? Without one more word, just here's what I do, for recovery and everything else, Mr. and Mrs. Jones. I take my multi and I get 1 gram per protein. And there it is over there if you want to do that. 50% of the people, without one more word, walked over and purchased it that moment. We studied this. And Bain, by the way, we're paying them $1 million a month to study our business before we sold. Okay. Now, if you made it compelling, if I said something else about the multi and about your goals, about all your mechanisms, or vitamin mineral dependent, we want to make sure your fat loss mechanisms are really working at 100% rather than 60% from food, then you would get a 90% uptake with those. So I'm telling you, it really is just tell them what you do. Have a shaker bottle always around, or whatever. You'd be amazed at what the difference is. So I know I'm preaching to the choir with a lot of you out there, but since we had those champions on there. Oh, there it is. There it is. I love it. I love it. Well, this is
All
going to be my
right.
new favorite group every month now. That is for
Yes.
sure. That is no question about that.
Absolutely.
This whole group
So-
here. This is really great.
Yep.
And you
So
guys can
mark
bring on, by the
calendars.
way, I do want to remind everybody, you can bring on anybody you want. This is not just, this is yours exclusive to your group only. So you got that in your own, you're going to have the place where you can access all that. But you can bring on your clients, your parents. You can put anybody else you want. Send the Zoom to your parents or clients. You can do whatever you want with it. It's all yours and it's just private for your group and the people that you want to extend out to. They're always welcome. I don't say anything that not any family can hear, other than if I use the bad word. We'll have a 7-second delay. Okay, like the Oscars.
So mark your calendars, you guys. First Friday of the month at 12 Pacific, 3 Eastern. We're going to do, and if you have something you want to learn about, you can drop it in the chat or just let us know right now what you want to learn about. We're probably going to set the topics here in the next couple weeks for the rest of the year. So you can just have your calendars marked and we will go from there. So does anyone else have a question or takeaway before we sign off?
I have one more quick question, just in regards to the aminos. A little bird had told us that Neil put some of the protein in the baby formula. And so I was wondering, being that I have a baby on the way, I was just wondering with the aminos, is there an age limit that we need to have caution with our younger athletes, junior high, high school age? Is it okay for them to be taking that as well?
Okay, so that's a really good question. Yeah, the joke about that, you guys, and the baby formula. My kids are all these giant and turned out to be pro athletes, and I ended up, I always spike their protein. I put their baby formulas with protein powder, which is food. So that's totally fine, obviously. And that was always the joke, and it's a true story. My wife used to scream at me all the time. I go, it's just food. It's just extra protein. Well, they're both plates are open, so we get vertical. But so that's the story on that. Aminos, no, I would not. The aminos, because they are separated out during those periods, we don't, and we have it on there, no one under 18, but it's fine for what we call super athletes. We work with super athletes, so Olympic hopefuls and D1 guarantees. So their parent, they might be 16 years old, or they could be 12, like gymnasts, right? Olympic hopeful. And so we will give it to them. We talk to the parents, we have a conversation with them because we know it's not going to hurt them. It's only going to help their recovery because they're way overtrained, grossly overtrained. And the amino formula can really help them recover. But there really is no reason for any other kid. They'll be fine with the first string and their kids multi or the active if they're over 12, and they're good to go with that. And that's all they really truly need. If you're working with a super athlete, they're actually designated super athletes, then that's a different conversation. And we can always help you with those and send you any information. I actually have a little thing on that if you're working with those. Otherwise, that's all they need, that first string, they're multi, and they're good to go. Okay. Oh, make sure they're getting calcium. That's why I fortified the first string with calcium and potassium. I made sure I did that because kids aren't getting enough calcium. And kids that stop drinking milk fracture 8 times more than kids that drink milk. And that's from lack of calcium, vitamin D. So just to give you that idea. So that's why it's important to get the calcium during growing years.
Neil, can I add just a little bit?
Yes. Yep.
So over the years, I've consulted with Neil because I have 2 kids, going to be 14 and 9, pretty elite athletes. And they've been using dotFIT products, just like Neil said, as their base, foundational work. But, as they get more elite, more committed, we've definitely added products, with the amino, the creatine, and such. My daughter is an elite cross country and track runner. She also races elite for triathlon. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to chat too, because they're in the middle of it right now.
Yeah, and that's great. Matt is a great resource, and just he lived it with his kids. And when he says elite, they're like big time elite. So yeah, getting it done. What we classify them as super athletes. So yeah, any of you need any of that kind of stuff, because he works with young kids all the time. A great resource for everybody here. That's what's kind of cool about this group. We can just share everything together. And you always got us too. Don't worry. And I'm kids is my thing. I grew up with no parents. So for me, everything's about being that being as good a parent as I can possibly be and helping other parents with their, we're getting, making sure their kids get all the right type of nutrition as they grow up.
Okay, what about you, Pedro? You have any questions?
I am good for today. I'm trying to get all the information in. There was a lot of information. So thank you.
Yeah. So we'll send out a link to the recording as well as this link to the slides. And then look out for that email as well, because you'll also see the link to past recordings. And again, mark your calendar, first Friday of the month, 12 o'clock Pacific. And we will see you guys next month. Have a great weekend.
Yeah, for sure. All right, I'm gonna miss you guys till next month. So I'll see you. Thanks, guys.
Take care. Bye.
Thank you.
First string, put it in the chat.